The switch statement is a control statement that selects a switch section to execute from a list of candidates. Each switch section contains one or more case labels and a list of one or more statements. In previous videos, we discussed about the if single selection and the if else double selection structures. Occasionally, an algorithm contains a series of decisions in which the algorithm tests a variables or expression separately for each constant integral expression or constant string expression the variables or expression may assume. A constant integral expression is an expression involving character and the integer constant that evaluates to an integer values. Simply put, the C# switch statements allow you to choose from many statements based on multiple selections by passing controls to one of the case statements within a body. The switch statement executes the case corresponding to the values of the expression. Also, the switch statement can include any number of case instances. Now let's start our code by creating a new tab, and with this tab we'll change the tab name to switch multiple selection selection structure. So here we'll create a button for our switch statement, and we change, let's just name it switch. Let's drag a label to the form and name it counting letter grade. Next, I'll double click the switch to, and outside the button event, no, not let me go to outside the event. You can move into this event. Let's create a character and call the character grade. Okay. Next, you can call it integer a count equals 0. Well, before I continue, let me just comment this now. What I want to do is I want to be counting letter grade. Okay. Now, next, instead of writing this, I can use comma b count equals 0, comma, let's say c count. Let's change this to capitalized letter. Okay. Equals 0, and then d count equals 0. That should be half by now. And then we need to put a semicolon, comma here. Now we need to iterate this. We're using for loop. The for loop is for int high equals 1. Let's start from 1. High less than, let's say 7, less than or equal to 7. Semicolon to terminate that I plus plus. Then inside the high plus plus now, let's do something that your users will pass the table text box and label. So we'll name enter a grade or letter grade. Let's name it letter grade, and here double click this to enter it again. And so when you enter a grade, we're not going to write a switch statement just like we are writing if statement. If it is if statement, if grade A equal, if the value you enter equals A, then increment it by 1, or if it is to B, increment it by. So we're going to use switch for this now. The switch statement, you write switch, and what do you want to test? The condition you want to test will be grade because the character, and you begin your switch and end the switch. Now before I check, I need to initialize it before I start iterating it. So we do that by saying grade, by writing grade equals convert dot to character text box. What's the name of that text box? Let's change this to grade text box. Let's change the programming name to grade txt. Okay, and go to form.css, and so grade txt.test. Let's test. So the next thing we need to do now is the switch grade. Now for the case 1 now, for case 1 of A, of let's say A, or case of small a, small a, then we'll say plus a counts. Then you must add the breakpoints. Break. Next, we do the same for case 2. We write case. We write case for B, the B character for big, the uppercase B and lowercase b. So we write case B. So then if it is uppercase B or lowercase b, we use this, and we add plus b counts, and you must put the break keyword so that you not break to the next line, to the next condition. Next, we need to add another thing called, let's add case 3, case for big, and case for small c. Small c, and we increase it by c counts, and we write break so that you not break to next case. Now the next one is, let's add one more case, the last but not the least, d for case, and for uppercase, uppercase d, put your semicolon, which is very important. Then a plus a, d counts, plus d counts, and then put your break, plus. There we go. So if anything happens, we need to check that too. We need to add what we call defaults, so that will not break out of the loop now. So the default value will now be message box message box dot show let's try something like incorrect letter grade entered. Please enter a new grade. Okay, and let's format our code here. We call it switch statement. Let's give our message box name like switch statement. Switch statement. Then you must break. You must add it to break the next line. Oops, I shouldn't be break plus plus. There you go. Now that we have the this switch case and case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4, and case 5. Now let's save and test the application now. But before we test the application, we need to check this. So this will run for int I, B, stuff like that. So we need to do one more thing. We need to output the values. So to do that, let's write message box dot show oops a count so we write something like a count is what is this. So a count equals this for then plus this one has to be to string to string plus, so there should be plus here too. So we have a count plus let's add b count, c count, d count, and error. Control V for c and d count. Okay, next we will need to add a count plus b count. This one will be b plus, so this b count, let's add a break line here so that to break to the next line, and break line here so to break to the next line, plus c count, and this will be this one will be c count plus d count. Add your break line and then call it d count. Control Z, add break line here, so /n. Okay, this will be d count now, and change this one to d, and finally we must add the plus sign to concatenate it together, and that should be how. Now save this now, but we need to iterate the I plus plus too. We need to iterate this by self, so we don't need to put the I plus plus here, so that this will iterate by self, because we iterate it now. If you run this code now and then go to start and run this code, let's run the code, go and select switch control, and we want to iterate it for 5 times. Incorrect grade, and we have A, B, Z, and so incorrect. So let's step through the code and correct this. So I didn't mean it's A now. We have A equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we don't want it to be like that. We want, so for this integer now, for int I equals this, I equals that, for int I equals 1, I less than, let's change this to 5 now. So let's just leave it to 7, I plus plus. So we need to apply the same function, the same concept here, the way we apply it to the while loop here. There we go. For this while loop, this will count, and the total value, I'm not sure if it's this one. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's this one. So we need to apply the same. I think we've done it before, but let's just walk through it and get it done. So for int I equals 1, I equals 1, I plus plus, and we need to get this grade empty. We need to put Ctrl C, grade the text will be empty after the break. So we make this empty equals empty string, so that we'll be adding values to it every time anytime we'll be asking for the value, like for like 7 times, and then we add it again and again for 7 times, and to automatically calculate everything for us once. Now the next thing we need to do now is the default dot. This will run perfectly, and let's add this to it now. So if we click this button one more time, the integer and the grade return to 0. So this must be outside the loop, outside the button, so that it will now change this to 0. And we cut this and take it outside the loop now, outside the button. So the next thing we need to do now is to check the for loop. The for loop will iterate for int I equals 1, I less than 7, I plus plus. So this will iterate the first time, and so we need to break out of the loop. So how do we break out of the loop? After the default settings here, we need to break out of the loop. So after the end of the switch, we want this guy to break out of the loop. Break. Because the for loop we iterate, so I need to delete the for loop and focus on the switch. So I'm going to delete the for loop. There's no need for the for loop here. We're testing for switch statement. Let's delete the for loop, because the for loop will iterate this. Now, so when you click this will show you, let's copy something. Ctrl C, Ctrl V, like you picked, or you entered D. Ctrl C. Let's do the same thing for this. You entered C. You entered B, and the last one you entered A. Save the loop, and let's run this now and see how it will work. Let's run this and go to for loop, switch statement, and let's enter D now. You enter D, and enter something else. You enter, oops, continue break, because character can only accept one value. Like character can only accept A, B, C, D, cannot accept string values. So I'm going to shut down and run it again. Go to multiple selection, make it A, enter A, S, which enter wrong value, and B, you entered B. Each case can contain multiple actions or no actions at all. A case with no statement is considered an empty case and can omit the break statement. The break statement is required for each case. The last expression must not be an empty case, but to control all other things, you can use default case, so that if all these conditions are not met, the default case will be met and display and execute the code behind the default case.